The Browns used to be presented to us as a brazen social experiment, a family boldly living out the possibility that plural marriage could work. In the beginning, it was inspiring, even revolutionary. But now, a quarter of a century later, that dream has disintegrated into shreds. One by one, the wives who were supposed to share in that vision have defected. The children, who once were so desperate to enter their father's world, now hold back, and in a few instances, repudiate him altogether. And Cody, the same man who espoused fairness, balance, and wholeness, has wound up hanging on to one relationship with Robyn, while the rest of his family disintegrates around him. But here's the searing question viewers can't help but ask. Did Robyn ever really accept plural marriage? Or was she always neatly relegated to the background as Cody's single, with the other wives bearing the true burden: sacrifice, financial burdens, and emotional abandonment? Right from the start, the cracks were palpable. But as the series went on season after season, the reality became impossible to deny. Hello everyone, I'm Solana, and welcome back to Beyond Sister Wives. If you're a newbie here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and leave your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you have to say. Did we really see the end of plural marriage? Or was this family never really plural at all? Stick around, because tonight we're diving deep into the emotional wreckage, the favoritism, and the reality that what appeared to be a united family on camera was, in truth, built on secrets, control, and unequal treatment. And trust me, you won't want to miss where this story leads. Now, let's go back to those early seasons. Recall how Cody always stressed equal time with each wife. That was to be the foundation of his marriages. Fairness, he invoked, was his mantra. But if you examine closer, even then the fissures were already beginning to appear. The truth. Cody and Robyn were living as a monogamous couple way before anyone would ever own up to it. You could tell by the little things. As Mary, Janelle, and Christine stretched themselves thin with sacrifices and smaller quarters, Robyn appeared to be treated like a special favorite right from the start. Consider the family's relocation to Flagstaff. Christine's dream home, Janelle's preference. No, it was Robyn's familiarity that proved the clincher. Her taste dictated the move, although it resulted in financial burden and emotional backlash for the rest of the family. And then there's Coyote Pass, the family dream of constructing together. All well and good on the surface, but if you listened, every argument over plots and positioning centered on what benefited Robyn. It wasn't about being together, it was about making her happy, while everyone else had to adapt again. Meanwhile, Mary was sinking deeper into isolation. Janelle threw herself into business just to stay afloat. And Christine shouldered the bulk of raising kids and keeping the household alive. These women gave endlessly, often without acknowledgement. But Cody's rotation, his even schedule that he used to promise, slowly leaned increasingly in Robyn's favor. He spent holidays in her home, he slept there most nights. He even confessed openly that he liked the quiet of her place. So, by the time Christine ultimately chose to walk away, viewers weren't shocked. The reality had been in our faces for years. What started as so-called plural marriage had quietly evolved into something else altogether. What the Browns ultimately became was not a successful plural family, but a monogamous home with Robyn at its center, while the remaining wives and children were relegated to feeling like supporting actors in their own narrative. And the irony, the same show that was designed to demonstrate plural marriage's success ended up laying bare its slow, agonizing disintegration. To truly comprehend the cracks within this family, you must contrast the life the original wives lived with the one Robyn entered. Mary, Janelle, and Christine began with nearly nothing. During those early years, they doubled up in small houses. Even sharing a single trailer wall-to-wall with children, money was never plentiful. Groceries were stretched thin, bills accumulated, and survival consisted of constant sacrifice. Janelle worked outside of the home, Christine managed raising an overflowing brood of children, and Mary scuffled with whatever side hustles she could manage just to keep them all afloat. They dabbled in MLMs, odd work, anything that would generate a little extra money, all while shelving their own aspirations. Survival was first, then Robyn came on the scene. And from day one, her experience was altogether different. She didn't step into the same battle. She had her own room, no cramped trailer, no house filled with toddlers. When the family relocated to Las Vegas, her home was conspicuous, larger, more luxurious, better suited to her preferences. And when the Flagstaff relocation presented itself, whose comfort informed the decision-making once more. Robyn's, the economic gap merely exacerbated it. While Janelle and Christine toiled to put food on the table, Robyn banked on Cody's affection and the lucrative paycheck from the show. Her entrepreneurial efforts, such as her jewelry line, faltered, but she had the luxury to attempt it while the other wives carried the burden of running households. And resentment really set in there. Robyn never experienced the gritty side of plural marriage. She didn't spend sleepless nights caring for babies from various families. She didn't bear the burden of raising children that weren't hers. She never had to stretch a budget so tight that necessities were a luxury. The first wives bore that weight for years, while Robyn came into comfort, security, and a husband who more and more made her his top priority. It's no wonder, then, that the other wives eventually reached their breaking point. They made the sacrifices of plural marriage, while Robyn enjoyed the benefits. The struggles weren't only between wives, though. Some of the most heart-wrenching revelations came from the children themselves, stories the cameras didn't cover entirely, but that later became known. For years, the show had presented an image of chaos, yes, but also of love. But once the kids started testifying, what came out was much darker, and for many fans, those testimonies were nothing less than heartbreaking. Mary, specifically, has been seriously accused. Maddie previously tweeted about her treatment by Mary, calling it abusive before she removed the tweets. Gwen then stated that she had been physically struck by Mary. Even Peyton implied that if the whole story ever became known, it might be so bad that it could close down the whole show. Those are serious allegations. And although TLC never publicly confronted them, they're not easily brushed aside. Even Mike Elty, who has frequently stood up for her parents, acknowledged she recalled moments that had bothered her. Though she later toned down her words, a lot of people think the silence about those hurtful allegations wasn't only about family loyalty, it was about safeguarding the paycheck. The Browns relied much on the revenue generated by sister wives, and admitting abuse would have had everything falling apart. And it wasn't just Mary who had accusations made against her. Cody himself has been accused of applying physical punishment that went too far. Gwen even spoke about situations when his punishment resulted in marks that lingered. That's a very different reality than the charming, playful dad fans first met on TV. It raises a disturbing question: was discipline in the Brown household crossing a line? What makes this so chilling is the extent to which everything was kept under wraps. The Browns needed to safeguard the brand. They needed to safeguard the show. To acknowledge what was actually going on behind closed doors jeopardized not only their reputation, but their economic livelihood. And yet, in the intervening years, the kids' voices did pierce through tweets, live streams, and interviews that started peeling back the curtain. Some of those threads got taken down, yes, but the words left a mark. For some of those fans, it validated what they had long suspected. The shiny version of Sister Wives wasn't the entire story. And the people who paid the biggest price for perpetuating that fantasy weren't Cody or Robyn, they were the kids. But if you want to know the full collapse of the Browns, you need to trace the money. Because beneath the emotional drama, budget issues were the nagging burden pulling this family under. Prior to TLC, the wives did their absolute best to get by. Christine was working full-time raising kids. Janelle held down steady jobs to make ends meet. Mary pursued moms, side businesses, and even invested in the family bed and breakfast. Every dollar counted, every choice was about survival. And then came Robyn. Unlike the others, she didn't carry the same financial burden. While Janelle and Christine hustled non-stop, Robyn leaned heavily on Cody and later on the TLC paycheck. Her boutique business never brought in real income, but that didn't matter, because she had the show, she had security the others never did. Years went by, and the gap became apparent. Mary, Janelle, and Christine began to establish some independence, but Cody and Robyn constructed their lives completely around sister wives. The finances were not spent wisely, though. Rather than investing in security, it was dumped into the grand houses and fantasies such as Coyote Pass. Coyote Pass was meant to be a symbol of unity. It was sold as the family's grand dream, living together next to each other on their own property. Instead, it became a battleground. Fights went on for decades over who would construct where. Even the pond Cody boasted about was more dream than reality. Janelle craved solutions. Christine craved liberty. But Cody, he spun around big ideas that never panned out, wasting money the family just couldn't afford. And this showed something deeper, how dependent they were on TLC. Without the reality show, the Browns could not make it financially. That is why so many of the plotlines viewers saw new wives on the horizon. Shake-ups in the family were less reality, and more production-created drama. The so-called new wife auditions, they were fictional. They were simply storylines designed to keep viewers engrossed. Because in front of the cameras, Cody was already practically monogamous to Robyn, and at the center of it all, the Browns' own financial mismanagement did them in. The wives who had learned to hustle, Janelle, Christine, even Mary, managed to hold their ground. Cody and Robyn, on the other hand, had tied their whole lives around a paycheck that was never promised to stick around. By the end, Cody and Robyn were grasping at TLC as their sole lifeline. And then the pandemic hit, the real breaking point for the Browns. They will never forget those notorious COVID rules. Cody wrote out pages of rules that went way further than anything health officials were even suggesting. On paper, it seemed cautious. But in reality, those rules tipped the whole dynamics of the family. Why? Because they gave Robyn a huge amount of power. While Janelle's children played outside in the fresh air, and Christine let her children live with more freedom, Cody said he would not visit anyone unless they listened to his rules exactly, and who listened to them perfectly. Robyn and her kids, she phrased it as mere respect for Cody's desires, but several of his fans perceived something else as strategic benefit. By taking his side, Robyn was now the faithful wife, the safe wife, while the rest were described as irresponsible, defiant, even callous. And the outcome? Cody spent nearly all his time at Robyn's house. He became increasingly estranged from Mary, Janelle, and Christine, along with the majority of the older children, who were not about to cut their own lives short just to meet his requirements. Holidays, birthdays, even spontaneous backyard drop-ins became war zones. Robyn frequently broke down on camera, claiming she never wanted to be the favorite. But whether she liked it or not, that's what she became. The pandemic cemented her status and made Cody more isolated from the rest of his family than ever. But if there's anything more tragic than the wives walking away, it's seeing the kids gradually drift back from their father. Because for years, Sister Wives wasn't so much about the weddings, it was about the children. Cluttered living rooms, birthday parties, family road trips. Cody had always said the idea of plural marriage was to have a large, close-knit family where every child never felt alone. And yet, by the later seasons, that fantasy had disintegrated. Christine's kids were some of the first to express the pain. Aspen and Mykelti established their own lives, but the distance was apparent. While Mykelti has remained somewhat attached through Robyn, the majority of Christine's children openly expressed their hurt over Cody not being present. One of the most obvious examples was when Isabel had a surgery storyline. She was about to undergo a life-altering procedure, something that no child should have to endure without a loved one by their side. And Cody still wouldn't go with her, according to his rules. Christine remained loyal to her daughter, but the agony in Isabel's eyes when she confessed she wished her dad was there, but knew he wouldn't show. That said, more than any amount of confessions ever could. Janelle's sons, Gabe and Garrison, also took center stage in this drama. During the pandemic, they rebelled against Cody's strict rules and wanted to live as normal young adults. However, the tension with their dad intensified to the point that by Christmas, it ruptured on camera. Gabe broke down and admitted that Cody had forgotten his birthday. For the fans, it was heartbreaking. It wasn't merely one missed date, it represented all of it. Years of increasing separation, a father whose attention had coalesced to one domicile, and two sons who came to understand that their connection with him had slipped through their fingers. Since then, both Gabe and Garrison have remained distant, rarely appearing in family gatherings with their dad. Even Mary's daughter, Leon, grew distant, though for very different reasons. After coming out as transgender, Leon built a life away from the spotlight. But their strained relationship with Cody reflected the bigger pattern. Rather than coming closer to his children, as they matured and struggled for real, Cody drew farther away, concentrating nearly all of his energies on defending his bond with Robyn and her children. And yet, what is remarkable is that the relationships between the children themselves have held up. Christine's children staunchly defend each other. Janelle's children rely on their siblings and cousins. Even without Cody at the helm, the family's next generation has maintained the love and bond that previously characterized the family. In a sense, the cohesion endured. It merely diverted away from the man who was to be the glue. The emotional cost of that alienation cannot be denied. Cody used to be the patriarch of an expansive family tree, envied at least on television for keeping all those relationships together. Now, that illusion lies in tatters. He holds a close connection with Robyn's kids, particularly the younger ones still at home, but he has lost regular contact with the majority of his older children. Birthdays are ignored, holidays are broken, and the unity on which the Browns base their tale has totally disintegrated. Ultimately, the image is somber. Cody gave up the devotion and adoration of scores of young ones for the convenience of one wife and her family. He had it all once, a circle of fine women and successful children. Today, he is only a shadow of that. Their silence, the fact that they haven't been to family gatherings, and their honest words on the internet and in interviews all make one thing certain: the estrangement isn't an accident. It's the direct price of his decisions. Right from the start, the Browns sold us a dream. They assured audiences that plural marriage was all about faith, family, and never going through life alone. They promised to paint a picture of teamwork, wives encouraging one another, a husband balancing multiple hearts with fairness, and children raised with infinite love surrounding them. And for a time, people did believe it. There were birthdays, campouts, crazy living rooms full of giggles, moments that made it seem like love might be big enough to accommodate everyone. But as the years went by, that illusion frayed. And by the time the last seasons came along, the reality could no longer be denied. This was not plural marriage anymore. It hadn't been 4 years. Robyn came in as the fourth wife, but she never trod the same path that the others did. She didn't spend decades jammed into small homes, living on every dollar, working side jobs, or giving up her own aspirations to survive. She stepped into luxury from the very start. The largest houses, the financial stability, and most of all, Cody's devotion. Her needs, her desires, her fears, those were the ones catered to, while Mary, Janelle, and Christine's sacrifices fell on deaf ears. And in the end, when the dust had settled, Robyn alone stood among the wives. So the question still stands: was it all worth it? Cody sacrificed almost everything he purported to hold dear: his marriages, his children's trust, the togetherness of the family unit itself, just to keep Robyn. He swapped the dream of many for the reality of one. And the most chilling plot twist of all, Robyn, previously portrayed as the promise of the new addition who would usher in peace, is now viewed by most as the harbinger of the family's downfall. Instead of being the peacemaker that she was brought in to be, Robyn became the emblem of division. Whether she intended to or not, her arrival signaled the start of the demise. And the saddest part of it all, the kids, the very ones this family was all supposed to be about. Grown children who no longer answer the phone when their dad calls. Sons who freely tell their father that they feel abandoned. Daughters who endured life-altering surgeries without their daddy present. The vision of building children with a higher, healthier way crumbled into estrangement, anger, and silence. The photo of those children holding on to one another for love and security as their father sits alone is the absolute evidence that something went fundamentally, irreparably wrong. And yet, in all the heartache, there's something strong here too. Christine stood up and walked away. Janelle learned to stand on her own 2 feet. Even Mary, after all the years of being pushed to the side, finally chose freedom. These women, who gave up everything to preserve Cody's vision, are now creating lives of their own. And the children, though hurt, are creating relationships free from the burden of polygamy. So, was it all worth it? Only Cody and Robyn can say for sure. To the rest of us, though, the price is as clear as glass. What was once a big, cohesive family spread out over a whole city is now a single couple in a large, empty home, estranged from most of the people who brought sister wives its life. The legacy is not unity, it is not success. It's a warning story about favoritism, disparities, and the risk of acting like everything is okay when it's falling apart behind the scenes. Friends, that's where we'll leave it today. The Brown family story has been dramatic, heartbreaking, and at times hard to watch, but it's also been real, and that's why so many of us keep tuning in. Not for the polished version, but for the truth that slips through the cracks. Now it's my turn to hear from you. Was this result foreordained from the start? Or might things have gone differently if Cody had really loved all his wives equally well? Do you think Robyn ever experienced plural marriage, or was she fated to be the sole exception all along? Let me know what you think in comments below, because your voice has weight here. Thanks ever so much for taking this time with me. I'm Solana, and this has been Beyond Sister Wives. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if you'd like more candid commentary on the stories we've all been tracking. Until next time, be kind to yourselves, and remember, sometimes the truth is the most dramatic storyline of all.